would like to say hello to all of the patrons and subscribers who are tuned in today for this conversation with one of opera's greatest legends, a legend in his own time, Sir Bryn Terfel, who has not, as it is not going to notice, Bryn, that you have not been at the Met since your tour de force performances as Wotan in 2012, through a series of unfortunate circumstances that you had no control over. Otherwise, Met audiences who miss you very, very much would have had a chance to see you on the Met stage more frequently in these last few years. But we're thrilled that you are going to be heard and seen by the Met audiences virtually, since we can't get you on the Met stage. In fact, nobody can get on the Met stage these days since we're closed because of the health crisis. So we are so welcome and thank you for, I know you've been hard at work on preparing this program. And maybe just before we start talking about it, I'd like to show an image of this. This is a Welsh holiday program, but with appeal for anyone who loves music. And it includes a wide variety of repertoire, which we'll talk about. But it's being performed in one of the most historic and impressive cathedrals just outside of Cardiff, where you live, in Brecon. So let's just show an image of the Brecon Cathedral, which is a 1,000-year-old edifice, and which I'm sure has the history of Wales embedded within it. Is this a cathedral that you know well, Bryn?
No, Peter, it's the first time that I went to it last week when we had our virtual meeting together. It's positioned beautifully between North and South Wales. So I have never had the curiosity to turn left in my journey to visit Brecon Cathedral, but what a beautiful building. And of course, within the program, we have a Benedictus, and the Benedictine monks visited Brecon Cathedral. So yes, it has a significant importance historically. And not to dwell on rather negative things, Peter, for the Tosca, I had a polyp removed from my vocal cords, which is something that I never thought would happen to me in my singing career. And of course I was distraught and afraid, but the specialist...
That was the new production of Tosca a few years ago.
Yes. But the specialist that was operating on me said, in my world, this is one of the simplest of the operations. So that put me in a good stead for recovery. And then, of course, my beautiful pirouette on a wet street in Bilbao. And may I say, if you do visit Bilbao, especially around the Guggenheim Museum, take care on those pavements, especially if it's rained, because I broke my leg in 3 different places. Yes, I did a rather wonderful pirouette and operated on by the surgeon that looks after the Welsh rugby team, Peter. So he specializes in feet. So now I'm back to working order.
And playing rugby too.
In a sense, I will be throwing the rugby ball somewhere in the house, yes. But my rugby days was over when I was 17 years old.
Well, the 2 instances you were referring to, just so our audiences fully understand, was the Dutchman, the new production of Dutchman last season, and that your unfortunate slip in Bilbao knocked out, and then the other was when you were going to play Scarpia, a role that I still hope you'll come back to the Met to sing at some point, which is one of your signature roles, of so many signature roles that would have been for the new production of Tosca a few years ago. So anyway, we now are facing a very exciting program. But before we get into that, this period has been so difficult for artists all over the world, and Wales has had its lockdowns and unlockdowns, and how have you managed to navigate your artistic and personal life since the health crisis began?
Oh, obviously, since breaking my leg and then going into the pandemic, which in 6 weeks after my recovery, the well of any work that I had was totally dry. But still, things came back into my diary, like a new production of Fidelio in Graz. It gave these European houses an opportunity. Maybe you're getting singers that they sometimes would not even thought that were free. Because our problems is that we book 4 or 5 in advance, of course. Things I've learned within the pandemic itself, of course, we've had to work with charities and with institutions here in Wales that I hope I could help by singing something for them. I know I should buy a new microphone, I should buy some new digital equipment, a camera perhaps. That's something that's been very lacking in my household, but those are the things that you have been doing, is expressing different sides of you as a performer to record a song here or there. I've been looking at one-act operas, Peter, just thinking that these might be the operas that an opera company might come back with. Mozart, Handel, Bach, you're guessing here. But of course, the news of a vaccine in Oxford, and I was there a couple of days ago, singing a concert for the vaccine team.
Oh, really?
For hard work and dedication, but also, of course, thinking of the lives that have been lost and the people that are still sick now. But this vaccine, I tell you, there's a spring in the step of the people walking around Oxford that day. And I was singing a new carol that was written by John Rutter, all about the perspective of Joseph on his journey, long and dark, towards Bethlehem, which is our journey within the pandemic. But at the end, he says, the angels sang, which is that ray of hope that we all have now, hopefully towards the next 6 or 7 months, to come back into some kind of normality.
Well, certainly we hope that sense of normality will return to the Metropolitan Opera and to our country, and as to other countries as well. And we're so looking forward to getting to return next fall when the Met will hopefully reopen for its 21-22 season, and things are looking much more encouraging these days. You of course raised the spirits of opera audiences all over the world when you participated in April in our at-home gala, when you and Hannah Stone, your wife, who's a wonderful harpist, performed together, and we have, and she's a participant in the holiday program coming up this Saturday. So why don't we talk a little bit about that, since I know that's our audiences are particularly excited. You know, when we began this pay-per-view concert series back in July with Jonas Kaufmann, you and I were talking about it back then and discussing possible dates. And when we finally decided upon December, it became obvious, I think, to you, I think it was you who suggested it to me, that this could be a holiday program. I believe it was your idea, and was it mine? Oh, okay, all right, I'll be guilty. But I'm happy to shoulder the blame or take the blame, because from what you have been putting together for this program is so exciting and so wonderful. And Tell us a little. You have an interesting array of forces. I mentioned Hannah, your wife, who's a wonderful harpist who's performing with you, and we also have two young Welsh artists who are part of the program that Barbara Hannigan, the soprano, has been conducting, of encouraging young talents. And so you have embraced these two wonderful young artists, a soprano and a tenor, and will be introducing them as part of the program. And they are formidable talents of their own, on their own. Also, there is this wonderful folk group, which I didn't know until you told me about them. But I gather they've actually had quite a bit of success touring in America as well. This group called Callan, or Callan, I probably am not saying it right. And So tell us how we've shaped this program. I know I've given you a few suggestions here and there, but basically this is your baby. So why don't you want to describe it a little bit? What the audiences can expect?
Yes, thank you, Peter, for that. Just to go back on a couple of the points. Yes, I think it's important now that we put an arm around the shoulders of our young emerging artists. You know, their careers have been stalled for a year. Mental health comes into question as well. So I know you have some amazing supporters in your opera house, and I think in the next 12 months, the young singers should be a high priority, because the self-earning classical music singers have been put rather close to the end of that list, especially from the government here in Britain. So rebuilding something like this is going to take some time. And yes, I am glad to be able to help two singers that are doing exceptionally well in their careers, Tristan Thier and Natalia Romaniu. And yes, you mentioned Barbara Hannigan's Momentum. I wish I would have thought this concept myself. She was given a big award, financial award in Denmark, and she decided to give it all towards Momentum, and they give a small amount of money to young professional performers, not people coming out of colleges, but people that are already involved within their careers.
But Momentum is the name of her program.
Momentum, yes. And of course, she's looking for sponsors and for people to invest in her idea, her concept, just to give these young, brilliant performers a better start. Starting from now, when the vaccine is inside us, this is something very important. And hopefully I can be a part of building that and having people to shadow me or to be by my side. Now, yes, it was definitely your idea to have a Christmas show, because it was within those dates of starting Christmas. And behind, of course, has been the frontline people fighting this pandemic. So I wanted to bring, in a sense, I stole a carol from our esteemed colleague, Jose Carreras. It's called El Nacimiento. And it talks about serenidad, silencio, paz, which is peace, serenity, silence. And this is what we want to bring into the cathedral in Brecon, a sense of peacefulness that can bring the new year in with something totally different. So the first song that I will sing that night is called The Guardian Angel. So we all need the guardian angel during those hard, tough times that have been and that will hopefully change towards the future. I'm singing Silent Night in Welsh, in German. I mentioned already Benedictus, because of the Benedictine monks. Hannah is going to play a piece by Salcedo about the Tannenbaum, the Christmas tree, and hopefully she will light that Christmas tree in the Brecon Cathedral. Natalia Romaniu will give us Oh Holy Night, and I tell you what, this girl's beautiful voice will resound in that cathedral, especially towards the denouement of the song, which is where she brings her bread and butter top A's in her magnificent soprano voice. After a very prayer-like Ave Maria by Schubert that Tristan sang. You mentioned Callan. Yes, they have been very successful in every folk festival around the world. I think the pandemic even cancelled a very, very long American tour for them. So I will have the chance to sing In the Bleak Midwinter with them, and one of the most iconic tunes to come out of Wales, All Through the Night, All Through the Night. So yes, and we'll culminate to end, hopefully, with some songs about the stars. You chose one particular song that I had to learn in the last couple of days, that you had worked with Frederica von Stade and Kathleen Battle. I Wonder As I Wander, and I have to say, take my hat off. Great choice, Mr. Gelb. We are, of course, going to put one operatic aria in as well, which joins the collection about the stars. One song by Ivan Novello, which is a composer that was born just down the road here in Cardiff. I can give you the starlight, and then of course Wolfram's last act aria to the star, which of course arrives for us most of the time at 11:45, before midnight. Us baritones have to get our vocal category correct towards singing this most beautiful of arias. And then we will end with "O Come All Ye Faithful," with a new rendition written by my pianist and musical advisor, Jeff Howard, where we will sing in Latin, in Welsh, and in English. So it's a great goodbye from Wales, hopefully.
Well, it's a great program, which includes classical arrangements with piano and harp, and these more folkloric arrangements. And yesterday, when I got home from my morning tennis game, I found waiting for me in my inbox some rehearsal footage from that you sent me, and I thought it would be fun for our audience to just give them a little, to whet their appetite, to play two things. First, you mentioned "I Wonder as I Wander," which is this beautiful Appalachian folk song that you said you're learning for this program, which I'm so happy you're doing it. You sing it so beautifully. Let's hear a little bit of that rehearsal part of that song from yesterday, if we can play that now. It's such a beautiful song, and sung so beautifully by you. We also have some footage which I thought we'd play now of on a more rousing level of the finale, a bit of the finale of "O Come All You Faithful," which includes your two young singing proteges and yourself. Oh, that's so. Was that in your living room?
No, this is my music room.
Your music room. So I should remind our audiences that unlike the at-home gala, and that was probably recorded with the same iPad that you used for then, the show on Saturday is a highly sophisticated affair in terms of video and audio. We have I think six cameras and the top of the line audio equipment, so that when you watch this program, you can, as we've tried to convince our audiences in the past, you don't need to watch this on your computer. You can actually pair your computer using very simple technology that your children or grandchildren can explain to you, that enables you to watch it through your home entertainment system and hear it on great quality speakers, because the audio and video quality of these programs that we produce really are equivalent to the live and HD programs that we transmit into movie theaters. They're really of the highest possible technical quality. But of course, high technical quality is only as good as the artistry that it is capturing. So that's the most important thing, is to have you, Bryn, even though not on the stage of the Met, in the Met audiences' houses, and other opera lovers all around the world. Now, did you want to say anything else about the program before we move on to the audience questions?
Absolutely no. Just I've got to add, no pressure then.
Well, that's you live for pressure, don't you? That's what great artists do. So here are some questions from the audiences today, of which there are quite a few. I don't know if we have time for more than a couple, but so here's the first one. Why are so many Welshmen gifted performers, and who are your heroes in opera or in general?
Definitely a quick answer, the Welsh language. It has 7 vowels, I, A, E, O, U, the connection with church, also with singing hymns and choirs, mixed choirs, male voice choirs, female choirs. It seems to be within the language itself. And of course, the background of the Welsh even starts in the north of Spain, from Galicia and their journey to Finland and Scandinavia and across the waters to Cornwall, and then being fought by the Vikings and the English and hiding in the mountains. So we're still doing it a little bit, but yes, I would say definitely that. And if there was an icon in Wales that propelled me forwards towards the love of singing, because singing was frowned upon a little bit in comprehensive school, so I had to balance it a little bit with rugby and football and golf, but I'm glad I did it now. But Sir Geraint Evans was, of course, one that I held in high regard and high esteem, and he helped me a lot in the beginning of my career by telephoning Sir George Solti for an audition.
Wow. That's wonderful. I remember the first time I met you, which was I don't know if you remember this, in the Japanese Alps, when you sang the role of Creon in the Julie Taymor production of Oedipus Rex. And you were a formidable young talent back then. In any event,
it was great production with Seiji Ozawa and his Saito Festival, of course, with Jesse Norman and Philip Langridge.
That was a memorable experience for all of us. So the next question from the audience: please tell us about your formative music experiences growing up in Wales and your first singing experiences. How did you choose music as your career? Well, related to the previous question.
In Wales, we have something called the Eisteddfod, which is any given weekend, there's an Eisteddfod where you go and compete in singing, reciting, folk music, singing with the harp, playing a trumpet, an instrument. So I started when I was 3 years old singing, and I think from my parents' anecdotes, I was quite the showman. So from 3 years onwards, there was singing somewhere hidden. But of course, when the voice broke, that was a very important period in one's life to progress to going successfully to a music college, which I did in London, the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. 5 years there would not even have given me an audition at the Metropolitan Opera, but somehow that 6th year, when the Cardiff Singer of the World in 1989 with our dearly departed colleague Dmitri Chvorostovsky, of course, he ran away with it. They said it was a 2-horse race, but I think it was just 1 horse. I remember listening to Dmitri singing Fronditere de Largo, Handels Largo, and I knew that I could try my best to beat him, but he was magnificent. So to encapsulate that is kind of my journey in music. So the Eisteddfod, it's the Eisteddfod's fault that I'm on that stage.
All right, I guess we have time for 1 or 2 more of these questions from the audience. Do you have plans to sing Wotan again?
I have time. Don't worry for me, Peter. I've got Jeff Howard coming here at 5:45 to rehearse again for the concert on Saturday. No, I don't have Wotan in my diary. There's a particular stance one has, I think, unless you're a kind of singer like Sir John Tomlinson that would have sang Wotan in Bayreuth for maybe 12 seasons. I did my new production in Covent Garden. I did my new production at the Metropolitan Opera. I sang it once in Munich. And that's it for me. I'll hang the boots of Wotan because I've got other fish to fry. And I've been talking about these 1-act operas that hopefully will come back. And I've got my specific operas that I still sing, maybe a Flying Dutchman here and there. But yes, my Wagner days are over.
Well, we'll have to see if we can convince you to come back to the Met to do Flying Dutchman. If you were to sing another role at the Met, what would you want it to be?
I would still go back to a 1-act opera that I've never done at the Met. Anything from Il Tabarro to Gianni Schicchi to Walton's The Bear to the many comic 1-act operas that Donizetti has that are never ever performed, Peter. So I think I'm in the realm now to slow down certain roles, but still sing Scarpia, the Flying Dutchman.
Right.
But moving maybe into more comic roles, which Sir Geraint Evans did sing, like Don Pasquale, Elisir d'Amore. I think being at home has always been something that I've cherished. And I've got a 5-month-old back in the kitchen over there, most probably having his supper now, and a 3-year-old called Lily, who's keeping me fit, running after her all the time. So family life is very important because in this career, you do miss out a lot when you're away in a different country for weeks on end, but that's the nature of the beast.
All right, here's one final question from our audience. What do you recommend, or what advice do you give to singers who wish to extend the lives of their voices? What's the answer to vocal longevity?
That's a very, very good question. Of course, we've touched upon the fact why I cancelled Tosca was because, and of course, health-wise, you cannot really pinpoint why you have vocal problems like the polyp that I had. It could be something emotional, it could be a journey that you've had. So maybe it's important for young singers to keep looking at this particular section. Once a year, have that engine overhaul and make sure that nothing is happening and towards that you don't know of that's maybe affecting certain things. I knew immediately in Paris when I was singing Falstaff, and there's that little section where Falstaff mimics the voice of Alice. And I knew I couldn't sing it for some reason, that the falsetto wasn't there. And that is a sure sign for a bass baritone that something should be checked out. So I would say that really. And when you have the chance as a youngster, sing as many roles as you can in different with different composers, from Bach to Handel to Mozart. And it's important to sing oratorios. I think that's what the line of work is when you leave universities and college and start making a living in this profession. So I could sing you now the Elijah or the Messiah or any of the Bach passions. I could regurgitate that for you now, Peter, if you wanted it. And I think I think that is something that I would say to a young singer, to sing songs, to sing oratorio. And then, as my old singing teacher, Arthur Reckless, used to say, now's the time for you to learn the song repertoire, which is important for the health of your voice and the technique of your voice. On the opera stage, you rehearse for 6 weeks, so you know immediately what you're going to do on that stage, and not to step out of that box. Whatever you've rehearsed in this space, and as Hans Hotter famously said, the best singing of Boatswain I ever had was in my music room. So that's when you're as comfortable as you can ever be, without the certain pressures that you do have on an operatic stage.
Well, obviously, the pressures of an operatic stage vary. I mean, I imagine the Met, a theater the size of the Met, which is larger than most opera houses. Actually, it's the largest opera house. Probably, I know when young singers come to the stage of the Met and get on that stage for the first time, it can be a little bit intimidating. But I think your advice is so right on the mark in terms of singers. I've heard this from other singers who have had long careers also say that having flexibility and singing lots of different repertoire helps them enormously.
Yeah, I would also say, Peter, that these stage designers, they have to give us something to bounce off.
Right.
Give us a wooden set, please, and no carpets.
Right. I try to beat that into them, but it doesn't always work.
I famously said to the Royal Opera House, Peter, when I was offered to do the Flying Dutchman, a new production, I said to them, look, no raked stage, and I have to have a ship. And I think they misheard me because they gave me a huge rake and no ship.
I remember that because I remember being at that performance of yours and talking to you about it afterwards. But nonetheless, you still had a triumph. On that note, we'll wrap up this conversation if we may. Do you have any further final thoughts before we finish?
No, I just hope we're going to start bombarding everybody now with snippets of our rehearsals on Twitter and Facebook, and I hope we have a wonderful audience to join us in the warm welcome in Wales, even though the cathedral will be very cold.
Well, hopefully it won't be too cold that day. But you will bring your own heat with your wonderful voices to the occasion.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bryn. And even though our Met audiences long for your return to the stage of the Met, this is a very happy occasion for them to be able to experience you virtually from Brecon this Saturday. And to all of our loyal supporters who are watching and listening today, I hope you will join us on Saturday. I know you will. And I look forward to seeing everyone then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.